All right, let us move from Knowles with a smooth segue. How it's almost not a segue from Knowles to our crappy culture. All right, a headline in the New York Times, a former newspaper. Many people taking antidepressants discover they cannot quit. Big surprise, all right? Long-term use of antidepressants is surging in the United States, according to a new analysis of federal data by the New York Times. Some 15.5 million Americans have been taking the medications for at least 5 years. The rate has almost doubled since 2010 and more than tripled since 2000. Nearly 25 million adults have been on antidepressant for at least 2 years, a 60% increase since 2010. And then they go on to say, and I agree with this, by the way, the drugs have helped millions of people. I don't know if millions, yeah, probably millions of people. The drugs have helped people ease depression and anxiety and are widely regarded as milestones in psychiatric treatment. Many people stop the medications without significant trouble, but the rise in long-time use is also the result of an unanticipated and growing problem. Many who try to quit say they cannot because of withdrawal symptoms they were never warned about. And then later in the piece, they have a doctor, Dr. Alan Francis, professor emeritus of psychiatry at Duke University. Most people are put on these drugs in primary care after a very brief visit and without clear symptoms of clinical depression. Usually there's improvement, and often it's based on the passage of time or placebo effect. Now, here's what I want to say, because I'm not a fanatic about this. Like, I think Tom Cruise thinks, oh my gosh, there shouldn't be any psychiatry, there shouldn't be any drug. I got depressed when I've talked about this a lot, when I was in my, I guess it was like about 18, 19. I went to college and I fell into what I now recognize as a clinical depression. I was sleeping 15, 16 hours a day. I could barely speak. I was drinking. I could walk around like with a gray face. I could barely communicate with other human beings. And I knew something. At first, I just thought I had the longest cold in history, But after a while, even I, as a kid, when people weren't talking about depression or anything like this, I started to realize something is terribly, terribly wrong with me. Now, nowadays I have to deal with people socially all the time, and it's fine. But back in those days, I was very shy. I didn't want to communicate with things. I never joined anything. I forced myself to do it. I understood that I had to do something to get me out. I made sure I showed up for my friend's poker game. I joined the campus radio station. I did all these things that I had not been doing. I made sure I was at certain meetings that I had to go to. I did all those things that I had never done and normally would never have done, and it brought me up out of my depression. It brought me up out of the depression. Now, obviously, I had to go through a crisis later in life to deal with these things, but I never was drugged for any of this. And at one point, the psychiatrist I was seeing offered me Valium. I filled the prescription. I never took a pill because I just didn't believe in it. I wanted to battle through myself. Okay. I understand that there are people, they keep telling me this, I've never met one, but they keep telling me that there are people who get depressed and can't deal with their depression, so you give them some drugs and that lightens their load and then they can deal with the depression and then they get off the drugs. I keep hearing about that, but I also see a lot of people who spend their entire lives adjusting the dosage because it's not quite right and they're just a chemistry set who needs to be adjusted. Here's my point. If somebody comes in and is depressed to a psychiatrist, shouldn't the first thing they do be talk to them? Shouldn't the first thing they do be to recommend to them that they force themselves to get out and that they come back and report to the psychiatrist? Did you join this club? Is there a club you can join? Is there a place you can go where you can talk to other people? Isn't that the first thing you do instead of treating people like they're chemistry sets? Because underlying this, and I have read the literature, underlying this is a theory that essentially that's all you are, that you are just a chemistry set that can be adjusted to get the dosages just right, and then you'll be fine. And they do this with children all the time, which I think is a sin. The kid comes in and he's acting up, especially boys, and they say, well, he's got attention deficit disorder. You can pathologize anything. Pathologizing means turning something into a disease. You can say, like, oh, he's attention deficit disorder instead of, oh, he's a boy. You're asking him to sit still like a girl. Boys don't sit still like girls. take them outside and get them some exercise instead of drugging them up to make them easy for you to deal with. The question we should be asking ourselves is, one, what is the nature of a human being? What do we really believe about being a human being? And since the scientists and the experts aren't going to ask it, you have to ask it. You have to ask it about your kid. You have to ask it about yourself. You have to ask it about the situation you're in. Am I really suffering from a chemical imbalance, or is it the fact that my wife just walked out the door that's depressed me? You know, what is it that is making me upset, and how can I best deal with it? Because the experts won't deal with it, because they will always go to the materialist answer. You have to ask those questions. Can I join a church? Can I join a synagogue? Can I start doing things in my community that will get me out of this depression? And, you know, my question for all these experts who know so much and have made our world so great is, don't you give a damn? Do you not care about these people? Do you just want to make things easier for you? Because of course it's easier for you when a depressed person gets drugged. Of course it's easier for you when your kid stops running around and screaming because you gave him a drug and now he's happy, he's doing great, because we started, you know, we were reluctant to give him drugs, but once we did, he's doing great. Is he doing great, or are you doing better because he's not bothering you? I mean, if we are going to turn this kind of thing around, it's going to be us. It's going to be on the ground. It's going to be the person next to you. You know, I know that this is about religion, but even religion, I know that it's because people have lost their God and they don't know what their lives are about and what they're for anymore. But even with religion, the country doesn't need religion. You need it. The guy next to you needs it. It's not the society that needs it. The society can only get it one person at a time. The same is true of curing depression. It can only happen one person at a time. And not everybody responds to drugs. And drugs are not the first answer you should go to. Because once you do, my question is, these guys who peddle drugs, these psychiatrists who peddle drugs, what's their answer when people say, like, oh yeah, I'm on heroin, I'm on opiates, you know? I mean, you gave me one drug, I took another drug, what's the diff? You know, I think that it's a whole question of how we view human beings. All right, tomorrow, who's going to be on, Rob?
Tomorrow is,
oh, is it Michael Schmidt? Is it Schmitz tomorrow?
Yes.
Yes, we have a man, he's a Catholic priest, I believe, and he has written a book about how against gay marriage and against gay relationships. We're going to let him explain and ask him pertinent questions. Be there for that. I will be. And the conversation is tomorrow as well. I'm Andrew Klavan. This is The Andrew Klavan Show. The Andrew Klavan Show is produced by Robert Sterling. Executive producer, Jeremy Boring. Senior producer, Jonathan Hay. Our supervising producer is Mathis Glover. Technical producer, Austin Stevens. Edited by Alex Zingaro. Audio is mixed by Mike Cormina. Hair and makeup is by Jesua Alvera. The Andrew Klavan Show is a Daily Wire Forward Publishing production. Copyright Forward Publishing 2018.